Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone Podcast with KOMO Sports Director Niko and Najee Boye.
Well, welcome to a special emergency edition of the KOMO Sports End Zone. K9 is gone. Boye, Mafe is gone. Kobe Bryant is gone. Rasheed Shaheed is here to stay, as well as Josh Joe. A lot of things happening. We're going to get to all of it. But let's start with Kenneth Walker III. I'm Niko and he is Najee Boye. Najee, here's the thing, and I have a question for you when it comes down to it. So listen, I was in the camp. I thought they would find a way to bring K9 back, not just because of his performance down the stretch in the Super Bowl. And understanding $15 million a year is a lot for a running back. That's what the Chiefs are paying him. But from the standpoint that, you know, it wasn't long ago when the Seahawks did not have the depth at running back, that they were starting guys like Travis Homer because Rashad Penny or Chris Carson or K9 even were all injured. And they got away from that by having both K9 and Zach Charbonnet, right? Now, obviously, they're going to look at some of the remaining veterans out there. Obviously, maybe not so obviously, but probably looking at the draft potentially for a running back. But to me, by losing Kenneth Walker III, the only proven, so to speak, every down type back is Zach Charbonnet, who, by the way, is coming back from a severe ACL injury and probably misses at least a couple games in 2026. So Najee, my question for you, if you can't hear the tone of my voice, I'm nervous. Are you that nervous about this?
I am nervous in that, you know, we look at what's left. You know, Zach Charbonnet coming off of a season-ending ACL injury, and you know the running back market, in Seattle, the running back room is kind of shallow. I mean, K9 was a big part of it. He obviously, without K9, you don't have the Super Bowl. You don't have the Super Bowl. You know, I would be surprised to think that John Schneider and the Seahawks organization don't have a plan. There's a lot of running backs out there. But I just don't see ending up with someone. I want to name an arbitrary running back who's available, like Tank Bigsby, ending up in Seattle. That's not plan A. You know, I think plan A was to re-sign K9. I think overall, you know, him signing with the Chiefs maybe says more about the Chiefs than the Seahawks. I mean, this is a Chiefs team that did make the playoffs last year. This is a Chiefs team that is used to making the playoffs and winning Super Bowls. This is a Chiefs team that was trotting out there Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt as running backs, and this has obviously puts them, you know, to have one of the best running backs in the league, a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. But that's just what happens, Niko, when you win the Super Bowl, especially the way the Seahawks did. Teams pilfer, and guys want to go get their bag. And hey, I'm not mad at K9 for doing that whatsoever.
Not at all.
That being said, this is kind of what I would say. This is almost worst case scenario for the Seahawks. But I do believe I say almost because I think the Seahawks organization has a plan. And I mean, and they could be looking for the draft. We know Trader John, you know, he's got picks. And when you're picking in, you know, where the Seahawks are picking right now at the end of the first round, it's like, you know, do you really need, you know, all these picks? I mean, the team can run it back next year and be completely fine, Niko.
Well, a couple things on that. At the moment, they only have the 4 picks because they traded 2 to get Rasheed Shaheed, which thankfully he's staying.
Yeah.
But you will get some compensation picks back on the other side of it because you lost so many free agents, probably 2, maybe 3. And yeah, I mean, they almost certainly have to address this thing at the draft. And I think that's probably the plan. I think to your point, like when you mentioned Take Big Z, like I'm not just saying this because it's your name, but a guy like Najee Harris could be available.
Hey, who knows?
And you don't need him to be the bell cow the whole season. He can just kind of get you through till Charbonnet's back and, you know, and then be the second option, so to speak. So, and again, arbitrarily kind of mentioning a guy who I know is a free agent running back. But the idea that, gosh, you lose a guy who's supremely talented. I know that I'm not alone when I say that I thought that he was probably underutilized this year, and we saw how dynamic he could be when it was just his show and down the stretch. You can make the argument Seahawks don't beat the Rams in the NFC Championship if, you know, he's not making big plays, or in the Super Bowl, he put them in position for all of those Jason Myers field goals, which is why he won MVP. So certainly the plan, the hope, not necessarily the expectation, but the hope was to run it back as much as possible. But to your point, I mean, listen, good for Kobe Bryant getting, you know, that much money, $13+ million a year. Boye, Mafe getting $20 million a year. And that's a guy who was probably your 4th edge rusher. I mean, he's got a lot of potential and talent. I'm not knocking the Bengals, but I think that that one, if I'm the Seahawks, that makes sense. Okay, he's a depth piece for us. We can't pay a depth piece $20 million a year. Kobe Bryant, I was talking with Michael Bumpus, the Bump and Stacy show, former Seahawk and Coug, and he said, in his opinion, Kobe Bryant was the best free agent safety available. I don't have much of an argument with that at all. I'm going to miss Kobe. He's my buddy. But no, and so for him to get $13 million a year is pretty special for him. And I would have liked to have seen the Seahawks match that, but it's like maybe you can get somebody else that isn't quite as good as Kobe right now, but when you've got Julian Love and Nicky Manwari and a guy like Spoon who can shift a little bit, and there's a lot of different things you can do back there. Though I would make the concern, Najee, let me tell you see if you share this one as well. The reason the Seahawks were able to rush just the front four and create so much havoc, especially in the Super Bowl, was yes, because that front four is incredibly talented, but also because the secondary had such good coverage, and now you're letting one of the best safeties in football walk. Is that a concern for you?
I completely agree. I mean, honestly, he was second in the team in picks, right, with like 4 picks. I mean, that's something to sneeze at considering all the talent you have in the secondary. This may be a situation where this defense came together, and this defense is still more or less together. At least when you're talking about the front four. Boye Mafe was not exactly on the front lines every game like some of these other guys, but this was like a Camelot type of defense. So things kind of worked out maybe for one hot year, and Kobe Bryant is a great safety. He's what you really want when you hit the nail on the head where you want to be able to drop back, 8 guys right at any point in time, or like 7 guys at any point in time, because you have such a powerful front four. I think Kobe Bryant may be missed just about as much as K9, only because you want that defense to be 1A and 1B, in the league, of course, and then when the running back position being so shallow the way it is, it's like, when you think about the Seahawks team, when history writes the book on the Seahawks team that won the Super Bowl, you think about running the ball
right
throughout the year. You think about interceptions, you think about defense, and both those pieces are gone. It's unfortunate, but you trust in the organization, Niko. You trust in John Schneider. You trust in Mike Macdonald, the mad scientist that is Mike Macdonald. It's a sad day in Seattle, but there have been way worse, and the Seahawks can be in way worse positions than they are right now.
Well, that's just it. In John we trust, right? And I would like to say, I saw a clip out there. It was like CBS Sports in one of their entities where they were like, I don't see how the Seahawks can possibly run it back, losing all these guys. Like, if they not learned their lesson that this team always has a plan, and I'm not saying that they're definitely going to run it back. Of course not. There's so many things that have to go right. But it's the same folks that about a year ago were like, oh my God, the Seahawks are going to be terrible. They traded Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and brought Darnold in. Oh my God. Well, that worked out. It was the same people that were saying the Seahawks were going to be terrible when they traded Russell Wilson and started Geno Smith. They went to the playoffs, which doesn't sound like a lot now that they've won a Super Bowl, but when at the time, most people were saying the Seahawks were going to be like 3-14 or 4-12 or whatever the record line of predictions were back then. They won 9 games. It's just, there's a real lack of respect for this organization and the job that John Schneider does nationally. I'm not talking about here in the Northwest where everybody gets it. And in John, they trust.
I mean, it's something we talked about.
It's crazy to me. And you made me think of it. Yeah, you made me think of it when you said that, because Schneider has a plan. And I think the most logical is to get a talented, but maybe kind of cast aside running back to bridge the gap. And I still think they use a draft pick on one. I'm not saying first rounder. I'm not saying second, maybe even third, but it's they've got their first 3-round picks intact. But let's say they use a 3rd-round pick on a running back, right? Right. Then all of a sudden you've got that guy plus the veteran they signed for the sake of this argument, Najee Harris, and then Charbonnet. It's not a canine, but it's not a bad running back room, and it's one that probably costs you significantly less so that you can extend JSN and Devin Witherspoon. And that's the underlying theme here, Naj. They got to get the extensions for Witherspoon and Jackson Smith and Jigba done.
Yeah, I mean, that room that the hypothetical room reminds me a lot of a Rashard Penny, Chris Carson room.
Sure.
And that's not exactly where the Seahawks, we want to be past that right now. That's not exactly ideal. You can platoon it for a little while. The Seahawks offensive line is good enough that you can platoon it. Zach Charbonnet may not be better or completely healthy, I should say, by the beginning of the season, given just when his injury happened,
Yeah.
You can work on the draft. You can, I mean, if you want to make a big swing at a guy named Jeremiah Love, he's going to go in the top 10. That's your best running back in the draft. He's going to go in the top 10, whether he should or he shouldn't. Is it worth hemorrhaging all your picks for that? Probably not.
No.
I'm looking at a list of free agent running backs, and this is an old list, but some of these guys have been signed today. Travis Etienne did get signed today. We got Rico Dowdle for the Panthers. He's an option. He was a great fantasy back for me last year. Travis Algier from Atlanta. He ended up spelling, well, maybe not spelling a little bit. Maybe he was about 80-20 back behind Bijan Robinson. You got Javonte Williams. See, these are not great options. These are good options, but they're not great options. I mean, all these are
be a stopgap. And Najee, one thing about this Seahawks offense that, yes, it's different because Clint Kubiak has moved on to Vegas, but it's the same principles. And the idea there that I think Kubiak even tried to get across when people were wondering why he was using Charbonnet so much, that's not a knock on Zach. It's just the dynamics of K9. I think that a lot of people think you can plug and play. And to an extent, I think you can. They can't plug in Niko Tamurian at running back, but you can probably
never know. Niko, you can give us a good 40 yards total for a year, I feel like.
For the whole year?
Yeah, I think you could produce 40 yards.
I'm like 100 carries, maybe.
No, I think it's possible. With a good offensive line, anyone can run for. I don't want to bring up Peyton Hillis, but do you remember Peyton Hillis?
I do remember him. Yeah, former Madden cover.
Yeah, for Madden cover, exactly. Down in Cleveland. I mean, hey, it's possible. I mean, look, it is unfortunate. Like I said before, this says more about Kansas City than it does Seattle. But now, as we talk about this, I think about all the for the past month, all the K9 John Schneider moments that have a little bit more maybe meat to them, John Schneider just, being on stage during the celebrations, like K9 and I were just negotiating just then. Well, maybe you shouldn't have. I mean, I don't know.
He was definitely kidding, and you saw the red Solo Cup. Enough said there, right? But
yeah, but I think I don't want to say that I've called it yet again. But I mean, this is what happens when you win the Super Bowl. Your team gets pilfered. It's really hard to repeat because you're a great team. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. Your own players, they won the trophy. Now it's time to get the bag. Let's secure the family. We're talking about generational wealth here. K9 is a young guy. He's 25 years old. But I mean, for running backs,
shelf life,
not long. The deal, given the numbers that we saw, would make him the third highest paid running back in the league, tied with third with Derrick Henry behind Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. Running backs are such the most. I don't even. It's a position that have seen so much up and downs in the past couple of years, given about how the whole Saquon Barkley thing happened in New York City, why they didn't give him that giant contract, why he ended up going to Philadelphia. Christian McCaffrey injured, but having a good year last year, having a strong year. Like I said, this says a lot about Kansas City. They need to be back. They want to be back. They need, imagine Patrick Mahomes and K9 in the backfield. It's kind of frightening, I'm not gonna lie to you, but when you think about Kansas City, you also think about the other teams in the division. You're thinking about the Chargers, think about the Broncos, who are a lot better. The Raiders are trying to mount something. They're trying to do something. Who knows what they're trying to do.
They were super active to start free agency. And Najee, here's another point to bring out. When we talk about the running backs and the position that it can be plug and play, that they're generally not paid as high as other positions, I think it's telling that Rasheed Shaheed got $17 million a year and Kenneth Walker III got 15. Now, it sounds like, oh my gosh, that's a lot when you consider their roles, but Alec Pierce, the Colts, he got $30 million a year. For Rasheed and what he does, $17 million is fair. And thank goodness he's coming back, because you might have had, even if you always trust in John, there would have been a lot more nervousness around these parts. But I mean, in my opinion, Shaheed single-handedly either changed or won 3 games for this team. You think about the Falcons tie at halftime. Boom, he runs it back, the opening kickoff in the second half of the house. Rest was history. Obviously, the punt return Thursday night, Rams game, you're down 30-14. Sheed puts you right back in it. And then, of course, the NFC divisional game with the Niners. What a way to start that game, and the Seahawks never looked back. So you can break a game in that way. I'm fine with 3 years and $51 million on that. So at least he's back. And now listen, this was the first thing to drop, sort of, Najee. Now that we know Kobe is gone and Boye is gone and K9 obviously is gone, you can sort of look at, I mean, to me, this, I think I said this last week, any mock draft before this week is the dumbest thing ever, because you're basing who somebody picks on free agency moves that haven't happened yet. Like, it's like the hypothetical of the hypothetical. And so now that you've seen the certain things, like for example, running back is a prime position of need. And I don't think anybody's complaining if a really good value running back is available at 32. Same deal with what we've always thought about right guard. And, you know, if you lose Reek, you know, that's the thing at corner, or maybe you use it on a safety. It all depends on who you sign to fill these spots. And suddenly the rest of the offseason moving forward is kind of determined by all the flurry of moves we've seen on this rapid reaction Monday.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the first time anyone can really make deals. The league year, Nico, correct me if I'm wrong, actually starts on Wednesday, I believe.
Correct, yeah.
But this is the first unofficial, they call it tampering period. But I mean, this is basically the start of free agency.
Yeah.
And you know, my phone was exploding throughout the whole entire day. It was a busy day. It was a very busy day for all 32 teams. Adam Schefter, and everyone who works in sports was running everywhere. Nico, you were supposed to be off today. In fact, you know, you're sitting in the car outside Lumen Field waving to people, like you're the mayor.
I don't know about that. Well, you know, I'll say this, Najee, this was a highly impactful free agency day, and it always falls on this March 8th, March 9th date. It isn't last year, March 9th, when they traded DK Metcalf. It isn't the March of 2022 on the same day when they traded Russ and released Bobby Wagner. But given what we just saw this past season, it's pretty impactful. And I'm going to reserve judgment on the guys. I mean, listen, I'm always going to give a good grade to re-signing Rasheed Shaheed. I'm a big fan of his game. And as a person, quite frankly. But before we say, oh, man, they didn't pay K9 or they didn't pay Kobe or Boye. I mean, Boye, I think everybody's like, okay, your fourth edge rusher got $20 million a year. You're probably okay with letting him go for as talented as he is.
It's a desperate move by Cincinnati, who literally had no defense going down the stretch. You know, you put him outside of Trey Henderson, gives him a chance to start, blazes on trail, and we wish him all the best. Bryant does hurt. You needed Shaheed, and Walker definitely does hurt. A month out from the Super Bowl for sure. He's your MVP after all, you know. Yeah.
So I reserve judgment on. Yes, they hurt, but how much they hurt, that's what I reserve judgment on until I see who they sign, who they draft. Listen, 22 and 23, they used a second rounder on a running back, and K9 and Charbonnet, maybe we're headed that way again. I'd feel a little bit better if they signed something of an established veteran. So say weeks 1 through 4, it's not rookie. And then George Halani has shown potential, but you know, he's not an every down back. At least he hasn't been yet. And same deal with Kenny McIntosh. We've seen flashes, but we haven't necessarily seen anything that would indicate that he can carry the load in the first 4 weeks of defending your championship. So it's going to be really interesting to watch, but what an impactful day. You lose K9, you lose Boye Mafe, you lose Kobe Bryant. Keeping Rasheed Shaheed and Josh Jobe in the fold is good, and it does change the dynamic a little bit. And now it's going to be interesting to see what happens, quite frankly, over the next week or two. And then it's big time into the draft buildup, and all of that will be determined by what we see, what we saw today, and what we see moving forward.
Yeah, this was only the first day of free agency. I mean, we saw half the league get signed and re-signed, just and it seems like, and you know,
are you nervous?
Am I nervous? No, because it's only day one. No,
that's it. I hate losing K9. I think like I said, I think he was underrated. I think he's going to be a huge, huge, huge asset for the Kansas City Chiefs, but that's just what it is. Got to re-sign JSN and Spoon. You got to keep Rasheed. Let's see what happens down the stretch here. So that was our rapid reaction to this crazy day. Najee, I'm going to let you go, and I have a feeling we'll be doing another one of these pretty darn soon.
Yeah, we'll be talking throughout the season. Remember, Nico is he's outside Lumen Field right now.
You can see it right out the window. Yeah, we can see it right out the window.
He's everywhere. We're keeping an eye on the Seahawks. You're Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, by the way. Throughout the offseason, through free agency, through any trades, through drafting, into preseason, into our training camp, Nico is there. This was the KOMO Sports End Zone. Toodaloo K9. Toodaloo K9.
We love you, K9. We love you, Kobe. We love you, Boye and Mafe. We'll see you next season. And you'll see Najee and I next week.
Yep.
Or maybe even the next day. Who knows?
Yeah, at this rate, you know, you never know what could happen. But Nico's got to go on TV soon and catch me.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed this rapid reaction. We'll see you guys later.
All right, bye.